A brotherhood like ours will ever be unbroken, no matter where our separate paths may lead. And even in the darkest hours, we'll always be prepared. And even in the darkest hours, we'll always be prepared. A brotherhood. We'll always be prepared. A brotherhood of service we shall be. Well, hold on. Too much power here. There we go. So gather round our circle, we'll tightly every link, we'll catch the higher vision. A good man has the wisdom. WWW, tried and true.
I was 15 years old when I attended the 1979 NOAC at Colorado State University. It was there I met our founder, Dr. E. Erner Goodman. I couldn't believe that a guy that founded the OA back in 1915 would actually be still alive. But when we heard he was signing sashes, we ran as fast as we could. When we got there, it was a mob scene. There were kids everywhere. He was drowning in adoring fans. I finally got to the front. I expected he'd smile, sign my sash, maybe shake my hand, but that wasn't what happened at all. Instead, he looked me right in the eyes, asked for my name, then we just started talking. He asked about school and the other activities I did outside of Scouts. It was like, at that moment, amongst all the chaos, I was the only person in the world. He looked just like his pictures, not a hair out of place, the mustache neat and trim, the eyes sparkling. He wasn't loud or dramatic. He spoke calmly and evenly, but with such expression. There was an almost childlike playfulness in his eyes. And he had a sense of humor too. I remember him saying he just wanted to take control of his schedule for once and spend some personal time with some actual airmen for a change. I suppose I most remember his infectious smile. He could make you feel better simply through the realization of his own happiness, his gratitude for the good things the day had brought his way. In a way, the spirit of the Order of the Arrow was very much wrapped up in this good man. I'll never forget how he made us feel that day. And every time I meet a new kid in Scouts, I try and make that same impression. That way, every kid I meet gets to meet him too. See, a brotherhood like ours will ever be unbroken, no matter where our separate paths may lead. And even in the darkest hour, we'll always be prepared. A brotherhood of service we shall be. So
Gather round the circle, we'll tightly every link, we'll catch the higher vision. A good man has the wisdom. WWW, tried and true.
My first Scoutmaster. My first Scoutmaster served 3 tours of duty in Vietnam and was serving his 4th in the Boy Scouts of America. Congratulations, men! You have been chosen to join the Order of the Arrow. This weekend, you will go to the ordeal, and you will work hard, and you will love it. I tried to find out more about the whole ordeal thing, but none of the members would say. So I asked the other guys going through it what they had heard. They're gonna tie us up and beat us and leave us in the woods to die. Yeah, man, my dad was in the OA. And he said, you're not allowed to talk the whole weekend. And nobody wants to either, because the only thing you're allowed to wear for clothes is one of those little white sashes. Do you know what I'm saying? Of course, I wasn't about to fall for all of that. So I went home, and I got out my laptop, and I did my own research. I Googled Order of the Arrow, OA, ordeal, and nothing bad came up. Until I checked YouTube.
They can't talk for 24 hours. Order of the Straight Arrow, you know?
Gotcha. I was in the order myself. The straight arrow hasn't changed a bit since I was a boy.
So, I packed a sleeping bag, a ground sheet, and a can of bear mace. When I arrived at my ordeal, we were split into groups, and we were introduced to our alangamat. Later that night, he took us to the pre-ordeal ceremony. All I remember is that it was really dark, and Kitch-Kennett looked like David Bowie. After the ordeal, we all sat around a campfire, sharing rumors about what you had to do to get the vigil. An hour later, and I'm convinced you have to drink goat blood and eat a live bat while listening to Nickelback. Then one of the guys told us how to kiss a girl. Whoa. Yeah. So, we then proceeded to share our own elaborate, fabricated stories from our exploits with women when some of the adults walked up and they overheard us. They all laughed for a while, and then one of them said, you know, if you guys like telling stories so much, you should join the ceremony team. So I did. I played all the parts, except for Alawat because I could never get the lines. But not that I didn't try. I was in a coffee shop studying Alawat's part, peacefully going through my emo phase. When suddenly this girl comes up and she shoves all of my stuff off the table and opens up her laptop. And I was like, excuse me, I'm trying to exist here. I have to do some research. You're excused. What? What is that? What's so important that you have to throw my stuff on the floor? I have to figure out why Jeff Buckley died. That's easy. He drowned. That still doesn't explain why. I was hooked. I thought I knew a lot about music, but this girl listened to bands that I had never even heard of. The next weekend, she took me to a show at a skate park where there were all these local bands playing music on the ramps. We danced. We talked about life, music. It was perfect. It was the best night of my life. Until... All right. So I lean in for my first kiss, right? Yeah. And I proceed to touch my lips to hers, and then... I wish. But no. Then I proceed to. Oh my God, what was that? What did you just do? I don't know. One of my friends from OA told me that. What's OA? It's a secret club. A bunch of guys dressed like Indians and do ceremonies in the woods. It's true. Oh, wait, no. Where are you going? No. She left me. Just like that, it was all over. She left me, man. Oh, no is right. She left me. I spent the next 3 weeks playing video games and listening and watching old episodes of the Wonder Years. I liked the Wonder Years, right? Because it made me feel nostalgic. Not that I had really been alive long enough to feel nostalgic, but, you know. My entire life just felt out of place. My entire life just felt out of place. You know the Beatles wrote that song, huh? Good band. Good band. Broke up because of a girl. There is nothing wrong with kissing a woman like that. Am I right? Right? No. You're with me. You're with me on this. I can tell. You've been there, right? Yeah.
Unfortunately.
You're a good listener. All you, bro. So, I went home and I call my friends and I tell them what happened. And after they got done laughing at me, we talked until 3 o'clock in the morning. And that's pretty much the way it goes now. No matter what it is, home, school, girl problems, I can always call one of my OA friends. No matter what. When you share something so unique and so hard to explain to outsiders, you form a bond that overcomes time and distance, and other people will never understand.
The battery flap had fallen over.
So, a brotherhood like ours will never be unbroken, no matter where our separate paths may lead. And even in the darkest hour, we'll always be prepared. A brotherhood of service we shall be. So
Gather round our circle, well tightly every link. We'll catch the higher vision. A good man has the wisdom. www, tried and true.
It was the summer of 1999, and we were packed down and ready to start what would be the very first trek of the very first year of the OA Wilderness Voyage program. Oh, excitement and anticipation rang in the air, but for just a moment, all the nervous chatter fell silent as we stopped to watch the sunrise over the boundary waters. The fog hung low over the horizon, and then the daylight broke through into a Monet-like masterpiece of pink and lavender. At that moment, in that dim light of dawn, while the world was still covered in fresh paint, we realized we were starting something together. And it would be wild and unpredictable and holy. They say in this modern age of air travel, great voyages no longer exist. But the voyage we made that morning, from dark to light, from me to we, such voyages still live on in us. And we get the opportunity to make them every day. A brotherhood like ours shall ever be unbroken, no matter where our separate paths may lead. And even in the darkest hours, we'll always be prepared. A brotherhood of service we shall be.
Started as a 1909 Volkswagen Beetle. We decided to turn it into a dune buggy. Basically, we took a stock Beetle and removed the engine, then cut 14 inches out of the middle of the chassis. The standard Beetle from 1959 had a 1300cc engine, making it around 45 horsepower. We changed the engine to a 1776cc, bumping it up to around 65. Now, I know that may not sound like much, but in a car this light, it'll throw you back in your seat. It'll go 80 on the highway. We've been working on this thing for about 3 years now. And by we, I mean me and my mom. See, I never knew my biological father. So my mom was always trying to find ways to connect with me and make sure I was getting the same experiences as every other kid with a dad. This woman stayed up reading manuals and learning about cars because I was into cars. And when I wanted to go camping, she took me to a troop meeting and became an assistant scoutmaster. It's funny. The only thing that ever really came between us was the OA. She wasn't a member, and she didn't want to step on this one thing I had that I could go do with just the guys. So it took some convincing. But I was never more proud than the day she became an airman. Just like everything else in her life, she went all in. Chapter advisor, dance team advisor, my mom, tough as nails and hanging it in there with the best of them. My mom was the only parent I ever needed. And she was more than just my mom. She was mom to like 20 other kids on the dance team. So here's to you, Mom, and every other woman in the order who went toe-to-toe to be here tonight. You are truly your brother's keepers and our equals. A brotherhood like ours will ever be unbroken, no matter where our separate paths may lead. And even in our darkest hours, we'll always be prepared. A brotherhood of service we shall be. So gather round our circle, well tightly every link. We'll catch the higher vision. A good man has the wisdom. WWW, tried and true.
I don't really have to tell you how little I ate. And then there was the service work. I spent my day in the hot sun on the first Saturday in June at the bottom of an empty pool scrubbing this reddish brown grime off the floor. I know the rest of you had to do similarly distasteful tasks. I mean, arduous tasks, but this was personally torturous. I mean, swimming was my favorite thing. And at first I thought, cool, we're going swimming. But no. After I saw what was at the bottom of that pool, I swore I'd never, ever swim at camp again. And it was back-breaking work. By 9 a.m., it was the worst pool party in history. After a short rest and another half of a sandwich devoid of any flavor whatsoever, the sun was at its zenith. It was hot. My Langa mat had on so much sunblock, he looked like he escaped from the circus. And despite me being a black kid from New Jersey, I got so red that I could hear Jeff Foxworthy making jokes about me. The hours ticked on, and my skin in the pool slowly traded pigments. As it got close to quitting time, suddenly the sky turned gray. And now it was raining. If I was allowed to speak, I would have shouted, are you kidding me? Are you serious right now? It was then that my Alangamat broke the silence and said, you know, we are almost done with this thing. 10 minutes more, we could be done. And then he just started singing in the rain like some sort of psychotic sunburnt clown, which for some reason made us all laugh. And so we all just started working as fast as we could. And we finished the pool in like 20 minutes. As a Cub Scout, I never really considered what might have gone into getting camp ready, much less the fact that anyone might have to work that hard in order for me to have fun. Yet at 14 years old, I found as much cheerful excitement in cleaning the pool as I ever did swimming in it. I think that's why we sing so many dumb songs in Scouts, you know? It's really not about the song or even the singing. It's just a way to access that cheerful spirit, which outlasts the irksome tasks and weighty responsibilities. So, here's to the psychotic, sunburnt clown in all of us. A brotherhood like ours will ever be unbroken, no matter where our separate paths may lead. And even in the darkest hours, we'll always be prepared. A brotherhood of service we shall be.
A scout is trustworthy, loyal, helpful, friendly, courteous, kind, obedient, cheerful, thrifty, brave, clean, and reverent. I've done that maybe 1,000,000 times as a scout. In my lodge, we do this call-out ceremony where the chief recites each point of the scout law as torchbearers light these smudge pots all around the council ring. The end result is a ring of 12 little fires, or at least it's supposed to be. My first time playing the chief was on short notice. I only had the script for about 48 hours, so I studied like crazy to memorize my lines. Normally, I'm a pretty confident public speaker, but for this thing, I was nervous. I remember being so scared that I would mess up my lines. But when the moment of truth arrived, it actually went pretty well. I remembered my lines and where to stand, and things were going great. Until I got to the 12 points of the Scout Law. See, I stood there with torchbearers on my left and right. A scout is trustworthy, and he lit the first smudge pot. A scout is loyal, and he lit the second one. A scout is helpful, then the third one. A scout is reasonable. I had never said them that slow before. Oh, but I was in front of a live audience, people. There was no going back. A scout is considerate. A scout is proactive. The worst part was when I finally got to the end. A scout is reverent. There were still like 4 more pots left to light. Oh, the best part was right when I said a scout is reasonable, 10 weeblos on the first row all make the same expression on their face. They were like, a brotherhood like ours will ever be unbroken, no matter where our separate paths may lead. And even in the darkest hour, we'll always be prepared. A brotherhood of service we shall be. So gather round our circle, well tightly every link. We'll catch the higher vision. A good man has the wisdom. WWW, tried and true.
My name is Second Lieutenant Tommy Boykin, United States Military Academy Class of 2014. but all the guys in my unit call me Boomer. I can't go into it right now, but trust me, there's a great story there. But you know, we all earn nicknames in life. One of my favorites is my vigil name, Homa Nukuya Inishkin, which means strong warrior with peaceful voice. Now, I like my vigil name because, like Boomer, it was given to me by my friends and brothers with whom I served. And I'm sure I'm not the only one here tonight who feels this way. So let's take a moment to think about the men who got the OA started strong in its early days and their resonantly powerful vigil names. Horace Kern, the diligent. Howard Seidemann, the patient. Harry Yoder, the builder. Colonel Edson, the strong. And E. Erner Goodman, the willing one. What great names for our founding fathers, huh? The strong and the willing. If my friend Marcus had lived to receive the vigil, I think that's the name they would have given him. But he died in combat when he was still young enough to run for Lodge Chief. So I share my vigil name with him because I know he earned it. Like so many other airmen who have served our order and our country over the past century. So here's to those who can only speak to us now through their actions, their service, and their sacrifice. And to the strong and willing still among us tonight, we salute you. A brotherhood like ours will ever be unbroken, no matter where our separate paths may lead. And even in the darkest hours, we'll always be prepared. A brotherhood and service we shall be.
How many of you out there know the game Simon Says? Well, we'll get to that game later, but my name is Simon, and I have something to say. So, a couple of years ago, I ran for chapter chief. It was me and two other guys, and the only problem was that these two guys were from the same troop, the largest troop in our council. So of the 150 or so people voting, 125 of them were from that troop, and I didn't know a single one. Needless to say, my election was a long shot at best. So the first guy stands up and says, "Well, vote for me and I'll build the best dance team in our chapter's history." The next guy stands up and says, "Vote for me and our ceremonies team will win first place at Conclave." So I stand up and say, "Vote for me and you won't have to choose between these two." And I lost. Which gets me back to my point. Can I be perfectly honest with you? Good. When I look into this sea of people, I don't exactly see people who have always been winners. Now, we naturally recognize those who put themselves on that line and win elections. But for every national chief and vice chief, there are easily 10 other guys who lost that election. And there's another 100 guys who never even got the chance to be nominated because they lost their section chief race. And there are countless of you here tonight that ran for some lodge or chapter election, and more of you here lost than won. And yet, you are here. Look. Look, I get it. You didn't want to be elected. You didn't want the title. That's not why you ran. You just wanted to serve. And you are proof that it takes more than just votes or popularity to make this order work year-round. So here's to you that ran and lost, but still kept the fire burning just the same. And here we go. Simon Says, sing along. A brotherhood like ours will ever be unbroken, no matter where our separate paths may lead. And even in the darkest hour, we'll always be prepared. A brotherhood of service we shall be.
So gather round our circle, well tightly every link. We'll catch the higher vision. A good man has the wisdom. WWW, tried and true.
Last October, I was the first adult to send my money into NOAC. I've been coming to these things for over 20 years, and there was no way I was going to miss the 100th anniversary one. And then it sold out. Next thing I know, there were thousands of kids who couldn't come because so many adults signed up first. Our lodge advisor sent out an email explaining the situation and asking for volunteers to give up their spot to a kid. I couldn't go, knowing that there was some kid out there who'd never been to a NOAC and who was going to miss all this. So I offered up my spot. First to put his money down, first to volunteer his spot to a kid. Then, last June, at our ordeal, just as I was joining the Cracker Barrel, I had a lemon bar and I dropped dead. But that's not so bad as it sounds. For example, I will never again have to fill out a BSA medical form. And no one up here listens to Skrillex, so that's a good thing. And just last night, I saw Chris Farley with a Diet Coke. But I digress. There's a lot of good folks who couldn't be here this week. Maybe because NOAC sold out, or maybe because, like me, they didn't live long enough, or some other reason. I say, let's sing one for all those good people who could only be here tonight in spirit. What do you say? Hey! A brotherhood like ours will never be unbroken, no matter where our separate paths may lead. And even in the darkest hour, always be prepared. A brotherhood of service we shall be.
So gather round our circle, we'll tightly every link. We'll catch the higher vision. A good man has the wisdom. WWW, tried and true.
I don't remember how it started, but we began to yell. Tentatively at first, amazed and somewhat unsettled at the noise we can generate, but soon increased our volume and gusto. We took turns trying to outdo each other, but then began to overlap. One of us gasping for breath while the other continuing to scream. For some 5 minutes solid, we yelled into the quiet of the valley, our bellows echoing from the cliff sides until our heads were light and throats hoarse. When we stopped, we laughed at each other in the uncanny silence, conscious of the catharsis of the moment and strange intimacy of knowing there was no one else in the world but each other with whom that rawness would have been possible. Until that moment, the summit was just a fancy new facility. After that moment, it was all ours. We were on top of the world, and what a beautiful view it was. Words can't describe what it was like to staff that first jamboree, but I'll tell you this. It was the finest OA staff ever assembled. If you haven't been to the summit yourself, go. Get wild. Go crazy. Howl at the moon. I know we did. Find your summit. I know we did. A brotherhood like ours shall ever be unbroken, no matter where our separate paths may lead. And even in the darkest hour, we'll always be prepared. A brotherhood of service we shall be.
Gather round our circle, we'll tightly every link. We'll catch the higher vision. A good man has the wisdom. WWW, tried and true.
Maybe you've heard. Last October, the National OA Committee held a special ceremony to dedicate our new home at the summit. I was lucky enough to be invited to see the ceremony. And let me tell you something. It was a powerful and special night. And the inaugural use of our all-new National Council ring, the Summit Circle. That's right. Now, I could tell you about watching the National Committee try and walk back up the hill to their cars, kind of like a TV show called The Slowest Race. But I want to tell you about the National Council ring. First off, the location is perfect. It's a quiet, hidden spot down a long, steep road that winds deeper and deeper into the forest, over this little brook, and into the area that will be the new ceremonial ring. It's just the kind of place that's bound to become a sort of a pilgrimage spot. Trust me on this. Just wait and see. Summit Circle will house the relocated Treasure Island ceremony ring, the one in which our order was founded. The original stones from TI, as well as the 50th anniversary plaque and lectern, will also be moved to the Summit Circle for placement there. The fire that night was unquestionably stunning. It crackled loudly throughout the proceedings. And the sparks, the sparks were unique. Like some sort of special fireworks effect that just never stopped. I don't know if I've ever seen anything quite like it, but it's a night I won't soon forget. I'll tell you this, the night that I was there, when we dedicated the place, it was a special night. The kind of thing you've got to see to believe. Maybe you've seen pictures. There's one on the cover of our new OA handbook. That's the night I was there. And I'll go back to the summit one day, sooner rather than later. And when I do, I'll visit the Summit Circle for sure. And I'll recall the ceremony, and the fire, and the sparks, and those feelings that I felt that night. It was special.
As you know, this year, lodges across the nation selected a limited number of youth and adult members to designate as OA Centurions. These are airmen who have meaningfully contributed to the forming, maturing, and ongoing operational excellence of their lodge, and who, in doing so, inspired others to follow in their footsteps. Now, I have one more story I'd like to share with you all tonight. See, our ceremony team had the best advisor any team could ask for. He was a large ginger man sporting a gout limp and a scarlet beard with a skunk white stripe right down the middle, kind of like a reverse OA sash. And he knew the ceremonies like the back of his hand. And he would explain the significance of every detail as if he was reading from some magic book of spells. His name was Wilson Richards, but all of us kids called him Mystic Bill. And he would make a new torch for every ceremony. And at the end, he would give the oldest one away. No reasons. He would just say, "This one's yours now. You can take it with you, leave it behind, give it away, or bring it back. It's up to you. No strings attached." Over the years, I received 4 of Mystic Bill's famous torches. I remember the first one I was ever handed. It was my first ordeal to attend as a member. I didn't know anybody. I didn't really have anything to do. And then this fiery-looking dude walks up to me and he says, "Hey, kid, you want to help?" I said, "Sure, what do I do?" And he hands me this old torch. I joined the Scouts to learn about leadership. And now here I was, 14 years old, in the dark of night, lighting the way. You know, in colonial times, there was a guy who would light the street lamps at night. He worked in darkness, so nobody really ever saw him. You just knew where he had been because of the lights that he left behind. And that's the way I always thought of Mystic Bill. A guy that never stood in the spotlight, but was always there, working in the background, unseen, setting us kids on fire. This one red-headed firebrand torch lit 100 more, and he sent us out like arrows into the night to illuminate the world. No strings attached. Now at this time, I would like to ask all of the arrowmen, all the AO Centurions, or OA Centurions, to please stand in the audience. Tonight, the National Eagle Scout Association dedicates this entire show, all of this, to you standing in the audience tonight, and to everyone else who ever once carried the torch, lit the way, and passed it along. Here's to you, and to you, Wilson Richards. A brotherhood like ours will ever be unbroken, no matter where our separate paths may lead. And even in the darkest hour, we'll always be prepared. A brotherhood of service we shall be. So gather round our circle, while tightly every link. We'll catch the higher vision. A good man has the wisdom. WWW, tried and true. A brotherhood like ours will ever be unbroken, no matter where our separate paths may lead. And even in the darkest hour, we'll always be prepared. A brotherhood of service we shall be. So gather round our circle, we'll tightly every link. We'll catch the higher vision. Our good man has a wisdom. WWW, tried and true.
Let us now open our ceremony in rededication to our order.
We are gathered here together in the midst of this great forest, gathered now to help and serve, cheerfully in all our actions, lovingly in our reflections. As fire curls winding upward, may our thoughts and actions rising fill us all with acts of goodness, and direct and rule and guide us in our work and thoughts this evening.
From the darkness, the glow of our council fire echoes with the laughter of 1,000 cheerful stories. This fire has always been at the center of our ceremonies, for as each candidate stands before it, their shadows are captured in the principles they encounter. Search your memories. Recall the moment you first felt the warmth from the fire of cheerfulness.
Awake, my friends. You now are starting on a long and toilsome journey.
From the darkness, from the forest, we have come with words of warning, bringing tokens of a struggle, an ordeal approaching swiftly.
All the natural world around you shows you clearly your reflection.
As the warrior draws the arrow most trustworthy from the quiver, you are drawn from many others.
You were sent to seek a vision of yourselves and of your purpose.
All the world may seem against you, and the path seem dark and lonely.
The spark is there, already glowing. Fan it now, forgetting hunger. Feed it till it is a fire.
From the small flame first lit by E. Erner Goodman and Carol Adson on Treasure Island to every candidate who's been led by the 15 Blazes, this fire has been a bright, shining link in an unbroken chain of brotherhood that transcends age and gender, time and distance, trying times and happy days. It has trekked the peaks of New Mexico, sailed across the Florida Keys, portaged through the boundary waters, and has now found a new home in the forests of West Virginia. From our founding to the present day, this brotherhood has grown from the vision of 2 young men to hundreds of lodges across the land. We have witnessed its growth.
A hallmark of this honor society, service, has always been a firm value in our actions. Tonight, you have once again taken a daring step towards the revitalization of this ideal in your everyday lives. The spirit of the Order has been a tremendous force, measured by the number of lives we've inspired to lead in service to others. We must always be mindful that every member in our Order can contribute to its success, and that our legacy will be defined not by our past, but by what we dare to do next.
In this new century, our Order will be judged by its actions, by how we apply the potential of each of our members,
by how well each member makes the most of his possibilities, and what we do with our discoveries,
by what we respect and how much each member demonstrates respect for his or herself,
by how well we understand others and how well we help others to understand us,
by how well we react to the unknown and adapt to change.
My friends, we have come far on our long and toilsome journey. You have shown your dedication by revealing the purpose of our Order and the significance of the arrow to our members across the nation.
Tonight, we challenge you. Internalize what has been said, done, and felt this evening so that it may grow all the brighter in your hearts and consciences. Build upon the fire of cheerfulness all the days of your lives.
As we rededicate ourselves to the obligation we long ago accepted, listen now in thoughtful contemplation as we recall these admonitions that set us loose upon this lofty journey.
I, Nutekit, am the guardian of the circle, and I urge you, seek the fire at the center, kindle cheerfulness within you. Gather round your hearts the tinder, lay the oak and pine together. Kindle all that is within you with a warm and cheerful spirit.
I, Mateu, heard this message whispered on the western mountains, where the sun from eve to morning never sets, while all beneath me as I climbed and then stood listening, slept in darkness, slept in shadow. You need seek no rocky summit. These high places are within you.
It is not an easy journey. Sometimes even friends will mock you, tempt you to betray your promise, test your resolution often try to make you faithless. All the world may seem against you, and the path seem dark and lonely. All your strength will be required when you face the isolation which a leader often faces.
That you are here with us tonight, my brothers, is proof that your devotion to these high ideals is heartfelt and true.
He alone is worthy to wear the arrow, who will continue faithfully to serve his fellow man.
We will let the Spirit fill us with the gladness of a dawning, of a springtime, of beginning.
We who bear the obligation of the Order of the Arrow, now in silent meditation, mindful of our high tradition, ponder that which is our purpose, mark with silence, reverent.
Arrowmen, if you believe in this extraordinary movement, if you will dare to do alongside all of us for the next 100 days, then stand up and join us. Take a look around. Do you see that? Do you hear that? and above all else. Do you feel that? It's the feeling that I pointed out when we started this evening. Like the wind, it can't be described with words. It's been 100 years in the making, and now it is our duty, our dare, to share this feeling of love with the world. Brothers, we are ready.
Firm bound in brotherhood,